Happy Halloween, everyone, and welcome to the very first Messiahs and Mythology holiday special. Halloween happens to be my favorite holiday, and so to celebrate, I decided to do an extensive mythological study on some sort of horrifying mythological monster. Now, I certainly had my pick of the litter when it came to monsters. I could have done Apophis, the Egyptian embodiment of chaos, the shape-shifting Wendigo, or the Basilisk. That weird chicken dragon thing. Basically everything was on the table for me, even the Greek stuff, which you guys probably already know I don't particularly care for. There were only two limitations I put on myself. One, no Japanese yokai, as those are relegated exclusively to the Patreon backers of this channel. And number two, I'm saving a certain goat man for a certain special involving the number 5 with 2 zeros behind it. Then it dawned on me that the most successful video on this channel by far is the Celtic creation story. And no, neo-pagans, I did not write this myself. Google your shit before making insinuations like that. Anyhow, since then I've had quite a few requests to cover other Celtic myths, and so I decided to look into certain Celtic monsters as a possible subject for my Halloween video. One thing led to another, and eventually my rabbit hole landed me here, at this disturbing monster whose presence is arguably still absolutely horrifying today, even with the massive oversaturation of disturbing imagery in our media and culture. Ladies and gentlemen, without further ado... My clothes are done. Ladies and gentlemen, without any further ado, I give you the Nuckelavee. To trace the origins of the Nuckelavee, we need to take a look back at the land in which its myth originates from, the Orkney Islands, and more specifically the island of Stronsay, which is this one right here. Now, the Orcadians, despite their close proximity to Scotland, have had a lot of cultural influences pressed upon them, most commonly from the Celts and the Norse, but a little bit from Scottish mythology and also the Romans. That being said, the indigenous people of the Orkney Islands more than likely had their own mythological explanations for the world around them prior to this colonialization, though any trace of unabridged tales are few and far between if they still exist at all. That being said, Orcadian mythology is really cool and imaginative. They have their own version of Atlantis called Finnfolkahim, inhabited by these amphibious, black-clad monster ferrymen who abduct seamen and keep them on prison islands so they can fuck them. Then there's also the Trolls, who are like little dwarf creatures who live in mounds filled with gold and jewels and captive musicians who are forced to play music for them. And then they fuck them. And then you have the Selkie, who are seals who go ashore and transform into beautiful women to lure in surface dwellers and... Wow, there's a lot of fucking going on here. However, we're not interested in these small fry. At least not for today. No, we want to go for the big boy. The first result you get when you look up Orcadian mythology, as a matter of fact. A monster so terrifying and chadly he doesn't even need to fuck. The Nuckelavee is a sea-dwelling demon whose appearance is most commonly based on the quote-unquote first-hand account of an encounter an islander by the name of Tomas had with him back in the 1880s. It is described to have the appearance of a man whose body was fused into the back of a horse from the torso down, a curiously similar account to that of a Greek centaur who rises out of the ocean to give chase to man on land. Tomas goes on further to describe the man's head as being huge and lopsided, bouncing around and rolling back and forth as if the rider's neck had been snapped by the weight of his own head. Its mouth is described to project outwards like that of a pig's, and I don't know if any of you have ever looked inside of a pig's mouth before, but its teeth are in that uncanny valley between human and animal. But at the very least, the Nuckelavee did not have the mouth of a goose. This is a true eldritch abomination, and it does not deserve to exist. And no, your eyes are not deceiving you. Not only do geese have teeth lining their beaks, those are teeth on their tongues. Have fun trying to sleep tonight. Anyway, getting back to the real monster, supposedly, Tomas goes into further detail, describing the horse head as having a single wide, flaming eye implanted into its forehead, another possible Greek reference, which, by the way, isn't totally unlikely seeing as the Orcadians, like most British islands, had made contact with the Romans, whose entire clusterfuck of a pantheon was directly influenced by the Greeks, primarily at least. What isn't a possible reference is the rest of the Nuckelavee's body, which apparently has no skin whatsoever, exposing its bulging, palpitating sinews and its ghastly yellow veins which circulate its putrid, blackened blood. In addition to being physically disgusting, the smell of the Nuckelavee's breath is worse than that one kid who refused to shower after gym class and instead just sprayed on an entire can of Axe and said, "Nah, I'm good," as a single whiff from the horsehead's exhalation is said to wilt crops and create plagues among the livestock of local farmers, hence contributing to the Orcadians' absolute hatred and fear of this behemoth. Though despite all of this, the Nuckelavee was most certainly at his most terrifying when he would emerge from the waters of the sea, coming onto land to chase down anyone unfortunate enough to catch his attention. Though the reason as to why he would actually go out and hunt down individual humans isn't specified, we can make a few assumptions based on context clues provided by other Orcadian monsters and consider what they kidnapped humans for. Oh. But wait, where would the thing come out? There's a human half and the horse is... Oh! Well, in any case, if you do happen to find yourself chased down by a gigantic degloved man-horse with an absolutely enormous head on his shoulders, your best bet of survival is to run off towards the closest body of fresh water, whether that be a river or a loch or a fen, I guess. For some reason or another, the Nuckelavee tends to have an aversion to fresh water. Now, this weakness isn't necessarily unique to the Nuckelavee, as in Orcadian mythology, all of their creatures are either sea-dwelling monsters or confined to the land. This means creatures like the Selkie were unable to go ashore, and the Trows were incapable of swimming in the sea. It's just one of those weird laws of separations the Orcadians came up with, which I guess applies to the most powerful of their demons. Just make sure that if you ever do retreat into any body of fresh water, there isn't some other, much more Celtic creature lying in wait for you. I find the Nuckelavee fascinating, as it's clearly an overpowered monstrosity with a rather easily exploitable weakness, and a design which almost seems Lovecraftian in nature, yet far precedes the author and his hilariously named cat by several centuries. The only negative thing I can really say about the Nuckelavee is that while he is a fantastic example of creatures which the dark recesses of the human mind can conjure and is easily one of my favorite mythological monsters purely from a design perspective, he definitely takes the spotlight away from all the other imaginative and diverse array of cryptology found in Orcadian mythology. That being said, this is still a mythology channel, and there's absolutely nothing stopping me from doing more videos in the future going over all the different and terrifying and horny monsters found on this often overlooked region of the world, besides possible audience retention. So if you guys are curious at all about all the other creatures Orcadia has to offer, let me know, and I certainly won't hesitate to devote my time to do an entire video expose on these creatures. Or if you have some other suggestion for what I should do next on my channel, leave it in the comment section down below. Just keep in mind, the more interesting and obscure the mythology, the more curious I will be to research it. Don't forget that I also do a series exclusively for backers of my Patreon called Academic Ayakashi Archive. This week we're going to be looking into Japanese corpse zombies, and how supposedly you at home can become such a spirit. Link is in the description down below. Every penny helps out a lot in my goal of finally getting myself an editor, besides myself, who is probably much more qualified to actually be cutting these videos together and can probably do it in less than half the time my slow ass takes. I also have a Discord, which aside from the Patreon and the comment section of these videos is about the only way that you're going to be able to get in contact with me. So if you would like to be a part of that, link to my Discord is also down in the description below. And before we depart for today, I want to wish everyone a happy Halloween and extend my thanks to all of you guys. Thanks to your continued support, this channel has over double the amount of subscribers I had at the beginning of this year, which is just fucking incredible to me. If you are a returning viewer and you like this sort of content, why not subscribe for more in the future? Keep in mind, I teased at the beginning of this video that when we hit 500, I'll be dropping an extensive video on the evil, horny, serpentine, angelic embodiment of darkness himself. Or whatever you choose to interpret him as. Until then, ladies and gentlemen, my name is Messiahs and Mythologies, and have a God's blessed day.